Welcome. This is a simple how-to video on how to create user accounts and managing the user platform on Sika POS. So if you're watching this video, we assume that you're already a registered member of Sika POS. If you don't have one, please go and create an account, and I encourage everyone. So now, to be able to create one, first you need to log in, and most business accounts or most user accounts are normally done by the business owners. Just a kind reminder that if you're logging in, you log in with your username and password. So in this case, I'm just going to log into a sample demo business, which is the username is pharmacy with the password, and we just click on login. So once you log in, the first thing you're going to see is your dashboard. But what we want to do today is to be able to create user accounts. So you go on your your left hand side under user management, and you come to users. Now, I always encourage everyone that before you create users, you need to be able to create roles. Now, what does roles mean? Roles mean that you're grouping users, you're grouping them to do a specific task. So if you're a business that has cashiers, let's just say you have cashiers, you have accountants, you have groundskeepers, you have kitchen staff, you have pharmacists, depending on whichever business that you want to do, it's very, very important that you assign users to roles. Now, why is this also important? Is because you don't want everybody to be able to access every part of the app. So by default, once you get an account, by default you have two roles which have already been pre-created for you. You have an admin role and you have a cashier role. But you're not limited to that. Depending on the type of plan that you are paying for, you are not limited to that. By default, you have an admin role and a cashier role. If you require to create more roles, you just come here and create more role. So I'll just show you what happens. So we just click on add here, and you can name the role. Let's say accountant, right? And once you create the role as accountant, you'll be able to choose what you want the accountant to be able to do to. So it's almost like a user access ability. So in here, you can choose to select all, or you can choose to select individually in that role. So, and the user is a section, so it's almost like this user section is here. If you want the user to be able to access, view users, add users, edit users, or delete users, you can just easily just click on select all. But if you want them to be able to just do a specific thing, you just click on that thing. So that goes all the way down to everything. So every section, if you want this role that you are creating, which is the accountant role, to be able to add customers, so you can say view customers, view own customer, or you'll be able to just say add customer here, or edit the customer, or be able to delete customers. If you want the user to do everything customer, you just click on select all. Now you'll be able to, there's always a tiny icon here that says information, and you'll be able to actually read that information and see what that more details, almost like an info text. So once this, you click on this info, it gives you an information on that section. Now, not all sessions have this part, but it's important that if you see a part that needs more explanation, you just put your mouse over that and you'll be able to read it. So that applies to all the other sessions. So products, POS, you can even assign a user that will only have access to the POS. And by the way, like I mentioned earlier on, by default there are two roles that are already created, an admin role and a cashier role. So if just a cashier, you can just go ahead and create a user, which we will explain later on. But I must remind you that the reason why we're actually doing this part first is because to be able to create a user, you need to have a role first. If the role already exists, just jump and skip to the next session of this video, which is to be able to add a user. So this is just a general overview of how that if you want the user to only access, let's say, quotations, cash register, and that. So for the purpose of this, I know the role we are creating is accountant. So I'll go, and accountant is all about reporting. So I'm just going to just say, okay, we want the accountant to have access to everything report. We want the accountant to have access to everything's expenses. We want the accountant to have access to the home data. So this is the welcome screen excuse me, and want the accountant to have access to that. Now, some of these assets will also not be in your plan, so depending on the plan that you have, we encourage everyone to make sure you get the utmost and you have access to all these other aspects of the Sika POS. If you want the, let's just say, asset management, CRM, and that. So this is just a general overview. So once you are happy, you just click on save. So once our accountant role has been created, now we can create a user. So like just a breakdown. So be able to create a user, you go to user management. Before, if the role has already been created, then go straight to users. But if you don't have a role for it yet, just go straight to account role and create a role. And that role, you'll be able to choose which access you want the role to be able to have. So we go to users, straight to users. So we're now in users. Bear in mind, these accounts were pre-created. So be able to create a user, we just come straight to add here. On the top right corner, click on add. And not every field is compulsory. So the parts that are compulsory have an asterisk on it. So let's say the username we're creating is called Steven. Okay, Steven. And the last name is Ado. Okay, and the email is, let's say, Steven. Okay, let's just say Steven Apia at blah 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 blah. It's active. This just means if you check, you can create the account, but you will not make it active yet. You are able to do that. So because we want to get this work and the account department, so we make sure it's ticked as active. You'll be able to allow login. Like as I mentioned in other subsequent videos, you have access to be able to create a user name, but each username would come with a number. So let's just say this is Steven. The person's name will be Steven, and automatically the username will be Steven-14. The 14 here is predefined by the system. This helps in other cases if the person has other businesses that is using the same account. So the username will be Steven-14. So this is the username that they are going to be using to log into the system. So the password, we just go for something very simple for now, and you repeat the same password. And here comes the reason why we were creating the role first. After you create the login details, you'll be able to create you'll be able to assign that user to the role. So the role we just created is accountant, and this helps because once the user logs in, we will be able to know what the user is able to see. So that's why it's important to check that the role is available first before creating a user account. Now another thing which I've realized that I also didn't mention is allow login. You have the ability to add users but not being able to allow them to log in. So for businesses that have payroll or HR system in there and want to actually create accounts for or add staff members, not all staff members can log in. You still have to add the users as staff members, but you have the option to allow them to log into the system, or you allow the option to not allow them to log into the system. So this option here is great because all you want to do is you want Mr. Steven to be in the system for later use, maybe for expense management or even for payroll management, but you can block Mr. Steven from not logging in at all. So the role here is also important because the role can also be used for payroll thing. The second aspect also is that you can assign that user to a specific location or all location, meaning that the user will be able to use the same account on another location, or the user is talk to just one location. So in this case, we say all locations. If there's a commission, you're able to set the commission, which will be explained later. If there's any other information that you want to set about the user, you'll be able to set that. If you have HRM as part of a package, you'll be able to set that. And if you even have a payroll and you want to actually manage the payroll, you'll be able to set the base salary of that user and you're able to add any other component that the person have. This will be well explained in the HR system, but this is a general overview of how to add a user account to your business. So once you're done, you just click on and save. Okay, so once you have that, you're perfect. So you can see that the account we just created here right now is Stephen there. Okay, and we're going to do a simple test where we copy the username, and remember the username is Stephen-14. The 14 is the business number, which is detected by the system. So whatever username you have, dash whichever the number that the system has given you. So this number is 14, so most likely your business number will be a different, definitely a higher a number or a lower number. So always watch out for that and ask the business owner what your username is. So we're just going to log out and test that login details. So we're just going to we type in Stephen-14 and we log in. Beautiful. So right from there, we remember that we're only giving Stephen access to a certain limited of information. So remember the home screen. So Stephen has, even in the home screen, Stephen has access to just stock and product. Stephen had access to expenses. Stephen had access to reports. Stephen had access to only HRM. So this become your accounting role. So anybody that you add that has access to accounting, this is what they see. This is a great feature because it helps you control what users see and how users can use your system. Thank you very much, and thanks for using Sika POS. Bye for now.